Hello, and welcome to this edition of News Today. Without delay, let's have a look at the headlines first. Two South African cheetahs released in Gandhi Sagar Sanctuary. RBI Governor highlights issues in India's financial markets functioning amidst shifting global tides. India's first fast-breeder nuclear reactor, 500 megawatt electrical, set for commissioning by 2026. Niti Aayog member calls for adopting GM crops for self-sufficiency in edible oils. UNESCO designated 16 new global geoparks as Global Geoparks Network. Climate change may shift Earth's poles by up to 27 meters. In a key development under India's wildlife conservation efforts, two South African cheetahs have been released into the Gandhi Sagar Sanctuary, located in the Mansar district of Madhya Pradesh. These cheetahs were earlier housed in Kuno National Park, also in Madhya Pradesh, after being brought from South Africa in February 2023 under Project Cheetah. To understand the significance of this move, let's revisit what Project Cheetah is all about. Launched in 2022, Project Cheetah is a landmark initiative aimed at reintroducing cheetahs to India, where they had gone extinct in the late 1940s and early 1950s. The project is being implemented by the National Tiger Conservation Authority or NTCA, with technical assistance from the Wildlife Institute of India. Further strengthening the framework, a Cheetah Project Steering Committee was established by the NTCA in 2023 to oversee, evaluate, and provide guidance on the implementation of the project. It's important to note that NTCA is a statutory body under the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, constituted under the enabling provisions of the Wildlife Protection Act 1972 as amended in 2006. The primary objectives of Project Cheetah include establishing breeding populations in secure habitats across the cheetah's historical range and using the species as a charismatic flagship and umbrella species to mobilize resources for restoring open forest and savanna systems. Another key aim is to use this opportunity to promote eco-development and ecotourism, ultimately enhancing local community livelihoods. Now turning to the cheetah itself, this species is the world's fastest mammal and was the only large carnivore to become extinct in India, with the last confirmed sighting in 1952. It is listed under Appendix 1 of CITES, which grants it the highest level of protection. Unlike other big cats like lions, tigers, leopards, and jaguars, cheetahs do not roar. As for their geographical range, in Asia, cheetahs are found only in the arid regions of eastern Iran and following reintroduction, India. In Africa, they inhabit grasslands, scrublands, and open forests, particularly across Botswana, Namibia, and South Africa. There are two distinct species of cheetahs: the African cheetah, which is listed as vulnerable on the IUCN Red List, and the Asiatic cheetah, which is critically endangered. The relocation of cheetahs to Gandhi Sagar Sanctuary marks yet another step forward in India's ongoing efforts to restore ecological balance and conserve its biodiversity. Moving ahead, the RBI governor has brought to light several issues affecting the functioning of India's financial markets, especially in the context of shifting global economic trends. Financial markets are crucial platforms for raising capital and trading financial assets such as bonds, stocks, foreign exchange, and derivatives. Let's begin with the government securities or GSECs market. Here, a major concern is the lack of diversity, with liquidity being concentrated in a limited number of securities. This leads to thinning liquidity for longer maturities. Furthermore, secondary market trading remains dominated by banks and primary dealers, resulting in a low turnover ratio, which is the annual turnover relative to the outstanding stock of securities. Now, shifting to the money market, multiple issues have been observed. In the call money market, which involves the borrowing or lending of funds for just one day, there is a notable decline in liquidity. Meanwhile, the term money market, which deals with funds for periods exceeding 14 days, suffers from an over-reliance on the overnight market. This undermines the development of a risk-free term structure, which is vital for benchmarking interest rate products. Adding to this, there are asymmetries between different money market rates, particularly the call money rate, the market repo rate, and the tri-party repo dealing system or TREPS rate. It's worth noting here that a tri-party repo involves a third party managing various functions like collateral selection, payment, and settlement between borrower and lender. Moving on to the foreign exchange or FX market, the RBI governor flagged the issue of pricing divergence between small and large customers. This is compounded by instances of non-compliance with regulatory mandates aimed at ensuring transparency. Turning to the derivatives market, the situation remains equally concerning. It is still small in size, both in absolute terms and relative to GDP. Moreover, it is plagued by a lack of diversity and limited liquidity. So, what lies ahead as a possible solution? The way forward, as highlighted, includes the development of a secured overnight rupee rate or SORR, based on the secured overnight market, particularly for the derivatives market. Additionally, there's a strong need to increase retail participation in the GSEC market, for instance, through the RBI Retail Direct Facility. Finally, banks are expected to play a more proactive role in transmitting RBI's liquidity measures to the broader market. These measures, if implemented effectively, could help strengthen India's financial markets amidst global economic uncertainty. India is all set to enter a crucial phase in its nuclear journey. The country's first fast-breeder nuclear reactor with a capacity of 500 megawatt electrical is scheduled for commissioning by 2026. Located at Kalpakkam in Tamil Nadu, this ambitious project will mark the beginning of the second stage of India's three-stage nuclear power program, an idea rooted in self-reliance and long-term sustainability. Let's take a closer look at how this development came to life. Back in 2003, the government established Bharatiya Navikiya Vidyut Nigam Limited or BHAVINI, specifically to construct and operate the prototype fast-breeder reactor known as PFBR. Before this, it was the Nuclear Power Corporation of India Limited or NPCIL that was responsible for implementing the first stage of the program. Now, what exactly is a fast-breeder reactor and how does it work? The PFBR uses indigenously produced uranium-plutonium mixed oxide or MOX fuel. To maintain the necessary temperature and safety levels, it utilizes liquid sodium as a coolant. A unique feature of this reactor is the uranium-238 blanket that surrounds the fuel core. This blanket undergoes nuclear transmutation to produce more fuel, which is why it's referred to as a breeder. So why is this such a significant milestone for India? First and foremost, this development paves the way for the third stage of India's nuclear program. The fast breeder reactor enables the use of thorium-232, a non-fissile material which, through a chain of nuclear processes, eventually creates uranium-233, a fissile material that can be used as fuel in the third stage. The reactor also highlights India's technological progress, as the country becomes only the second in the world after Russia to operate a commercial fast breeder reactor. From a sustainability point of view, it has another significant benefit. It can reuse spent fuel from the first stage of the nuclear program, which reduces nuclear waste. Most importantly, it unlocks the potential to fully utilize India's abundant thorium reserves. Now, let's align this development with India's broader vision, its three-stage nuclear power program. Devised in the 1950s by Dr. Homi J. Bhabha, the father of India's nuclear program, this long-term plan was designed to address the country's limited uranium reserves and capitalize on its plentiful thorium resources. The first stage of this program is based on pressurized heavy water reactors or PHWRs. These reactors use natural uranium, which contains only 0.7% of U-235 to undergo fission and release energy. The remaining 99.3%, which is U-238, doesn't go to waste. Instead, it's converted into plutonium-239 for use in the second stage. The second stage, which the Kalpakkam fast breeder reactor belongs to, utilizes a mixed oxide fuel made from plutonium-239 and uranium-238. In this stage, plutonium-239 undergoes fission, releasing energy and also producing more plutonium-239. Once a sufficient inventory of plutonium is built up, thorium-232 is introduced into the system, beginning the transition to the third stage. The third and final stage is the Advanced Heavy Water Reactor or AHWR. This reactor runs on a combination of thorium and uranium. The key here is that thorium-232 transmutes into uranium-233, which then powers the reactor, thereby completing the cycle. To sum it all up, with the upcoming launch of the fast breeder reactor at Kalpakkam, India is not just moving to the next phase of nuclear development, it's stepping into a future where energy is cleaner, waste is lower, and our natural resources are optimally utilized. In a significant policy recommendation, a member of Niti Aayog has called for the adoption of genetically modified or GM crops to achieve self-sufficiency in edible oils. But what exactly are GM crops? Genetically modified crops are organisms whose genetic material or DNA has been artificially altered to introduce desirable traits such as robustness and pest resistance. Within this category, transgenics represent a subset where one or more DNA sequences from another species are introduced. Bt cotton, for example, carries a gene from a bacterium. Now, turning to the current adoption status in India, Bt cotton remains the only GM crop approved for cultivation in the country. In 2022, the centre gave conditional approval for herbicide-tolerant GM mustard or DMH11 for environmental release. However, this decision is presently under review by the Supreme Court, which has also urged the formulation of a national policy on GM crops. So why is there a push for adopting GM edible oil crops? The answer lies in the widening gap between consumption and production. Per capita consumption of edible oils in India has increased to 19.7 kilograms per year, but domestic production continues to lag behind. With a growing population and rising urbanization, demand is only expected to rise further. As a result, India currently imports 55 to 60% of its edible oil requirement. This high import dependence poses serious challenges to both food security and economic stability. It's worth noting that while India had briefly achieved oilseed self-sufficiency during the Yellow Revolution of the early 1990s, that phase was short-lived. To address this issue, adoption of genome editing has been identified as one of the strategies under the National Mission on Edible Oils, Oilseeds or NMEO oilseeds. This mission aims to scale up domestic oil production to 25.45 million tons by 2030-31. The Niti Aayog suggestion therefore aligns with national efforts to enhance agricultural resilience and reduce dependence on imports through scientific innovation. Moving ahead, UNESCO has designated 16 new sites across 11 countries as part of the Global Geoparks network, marking a significant development during the 10th anniversary of the UNESCO Global Geoparks initiative. The Global Geoparks Network, or GGN, is a non-profit international association established under UNESCO. It plays a critical role in setting ethical standards that must be adhered to by all global geoparks. Among the newly designated sites, several stand out for their unique geological and environmental features. In China, Kanbula is located on the edge of the Qinghai Tibet Plateau and is notable for its exceptionally well-preserved ancient Meishui volcanoes and the Yellow River. In North Korea, Mount Paektu has been recognized for its historical significance as a site of the Millennium Eruption, one of the largest volcanic eruptions recorded around 1000 CE. From there, attention turns to North Riyadh in Saudi Arabia, where the Obeid Haran Valley, situated at the base of Tuwaik Mountain, functions as a vital natural reserve that supports the region's water supply. The valley also hosts remnants of ancient coral reef systems, adding to its geological importance. To understand the broader context, it is essential to revisit the concept of UNESCO Global Geoparks. Introduced in 2015, UGGPs are an integral part of the International Geosciences and Geoparks program. These geoparks are defined as single unified geographical areas with landscapes of international geological significance. They are managed through a comprehensive approach that encompasses protection, education, and sustainable development. Each geopark is administered by a legally recognized body under national legislation. Importantly, the designation of a UNESCO Global Geopark is not permanent. It is subject to reassessment every 4 years. Additionally, membership in the Global Geoparks network is mandatory for all UGGPs. At present, there are 229 UNESCO Global Geoparks located across 50 countries. It is notable that India does not currently have any UNESCO designated Global Geoparks. This expansion of the Global Geoparks network reflects UNESCO's continued commitment to promoting geological heritage, environmental sustainability, and international cooperation. Moving on, a new study reveals that Earth's geographic poles may shift their positions due to alarming levels of ice melt caused by climate change. Let's break it down. Geographical poles are the points where Earth's axis of rotation intersects the surface, and the motion of this rotational pole in relation to the Earth's crust, that's what we call polar motion. Now you might be wondering, why are the poles shifting? Well, Earth's rotation isn't perfectly stable. It wobbles, and these wobbles happen due to changes in how mass is distributed across the planet. What causes these mass shifts? Several factors, including fluctuations in atmospheric pressure, ocean currents, dynamics of the core and mantle, and significantly, the fusion of glacial caps and glaciers. And here's the worrying part. According to the study, due to the alarming levels of ice melt and shifting ocean mass, the north and south poles could move by 12 to 27 meters by the year 2100. The primary culprit, ice loss in Greenland and Antarctica, followed by smaller glaciers. So what does this mean for us? Let's look at the effects. First, navigation. Shifting poles can interfere with satellites and space telescopes that rely on Earth's rotation for precise positioning. Second, our days might get longer. As melting ice shifts mass from the poles to the equator, Earth becomes slightly more flattened. This affects its spin, slowing it down and causing longer days. In fact, since the year 2000, the length of a day has been increasing by 1.33 milliseconds every 100 years, faster than what we saw in the previous century. So yes, climate change is not just warming our planet, it might also be shifting its very axis. In today's Place in News, we will be talking about Brazil, whose capital is Brasília. Recently, the 15th BRICS Agriculture Ministers meeting was held in Brazil. Now, let's move on to some political and geographical features of the nation. Brazil is the largest country in South America and the 5th largest nation in the world. It faces the Atlantic Ocean and shares inland borders with every South American country except Chile and Ecuador. Geographically, both the equator and the Tropic of Capricorn pass through Brazil, giving it a diverse climate. One of its most prominent natural features is the Amazon River, which has the world's largest river system and the world's largest remaining virgin rainforest. In terms of climate, Brazil experiences a humid tropical and subtropical climate, except for a drier region in the northeast. When it comes to mining, Brazil is the world's top producer of niobium and the second largest producer of iron ore, manganese, tantalite, and bauxite. As we conclude today's main news, let's have a look at some quick updates. China alleged intrusion by the Philippines in the contentious Scarborough Shoal waters of the South China Sea or SCS. SCS is a marginal sea in the Western Pacific Ocean bordering Brunei Darussalam, Malaysia, Indonesia, the Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, Vietnam, and China. The government has provided grants for EV startups under Project Evolutions. The electric vehicle solutions led by Startups Evolutions program is launched by the Department of Science and Technology, Ministry of Science and Technology, and is being implemented in collaboration with the Ministry of Heavy Industry and the Automotive Component Manufacturers Association of India. India's first satellite Aryabhatta completed 50 years. Aryabhatta satellite was built by ISRO to conduct experiments in X-ray astronomy, aeronautics, and solar physics. It was named after the ancient Indian mathematician and astronomer. India has dispatched a second batch of BrahMos missile system batteries to the Philippines. BrahMos, jointly developed by India and Russia, is a long-range supersonic cruise missile that can be launched from land, sea, and air. ISRO satellite CROP estimated wheat crop area and production in India. It has estimated that the total wheat production from 8 major wheat growing states of India would be 122.724 million tons as on March 31st, 2025. Indian Air Force is participating in exercise Desert Flag 10. It is a premier multinational air combat exercise being hosted by the United Arab Emirates. The Arts College building of Osmania University, Hyderabad, Andhra Pradesh, has become the third structure in India to receive a trademark for its exterior design. The first two were the Taj Mahal Palace Hotel and the Bombay Stock Exchange. Kokborok Sahitya Parishad sought inclusion of Kokborok language in the 8th schedule of the Constitution. The word Kokborok comes from Kok meaning verbal and Borok meaning people or human. It is the language of Borok people who are geographically known as Tripuris. Before we sign off, let's challenge your understanding in today's installment of Test Your Learning. Thank you for joining us. We hope you found this episode of News Today engaging. For the solutions to the quiz and to access the PDF version of News Today, remember to visit the provided links in the description.